Hey, my name is ShawNshawN. I sell art on ShawNshawN.co. Today we're going to review Watcher. So this is a film by Chloe Okuno. I think there's a director-writer combination here, so not too many involved in the writing, which is good. Time is an hour and 31 minutes, so right at the sweet spot, an hour and a half that I like. Definitely felt pretty well edited, down to where it should be, I think. You have Maika Monroe plays Julia, Karl Glusman plays Francis, Gorman plays the Watcher, Gabriela Butuc plays Flavia, Madalina Anea plays Irina, Cristina Deleanu plays Eleonora. So this young couple, they move from New York to Romania because the boyfriend got a promotion at work. He's half Romanian, half American, and the girl doesn't speak any Romanian, so she's kind of learning from scratch, and she's all alone. And then she spots there's this weird neighbor across in another apartment building looking at her, she thinks, and then she thinks he's stalking her, and then later she starts stalking him, and then you're like, who's the watcher, you know? At the same time, there's this serial killer loose in the neighborhood, so she was wondering, is it actually him or is it someone else? So a lot of different cool interlays here. There's a bit a overlay of Dracula when she initially buys like a Dracula small doll, which Romania is obviously known for Transylvania. So that was kind of a cool interplay, just a little bit touch on that the story is going to be a little bit similar to Dracula, but doesn't have all the blood sucking. There's obviously blood involved with murder, but that's about it. And the woman is dressed at red at one point, so kind of playing the victim or the attraction for Dracula. That's a traditional color to attract men. Julia kind of spots this guy right off the bat. She starts following him around and she gets in trouble with the police. She kind of accuses him of stalking her, and they can't really prove it that it's him or anything, and so then everyone starts doubting her. There's a great creepy scene in the very beginning where she's in the cinema. She kind of wants to go to the cinema, kind of relax, and then there's this guy that comes in. She looks around, it's like there's a couple making out, and then also there's this creepy guy. She's like, oh shit, maybe that's this guy, right? Next thing she knows, he sits like directly behind her, and then he kind of moves up. Almost breathing on her neck. It's like so super creepy, right? And the girl's like, get the fuck out of there real quick. Goes to the grocery store. She starts shopping, and then the guy follows in there. She's like, oh my God, what the hell is this? So it really gave her a good scare. Yeah, that's where she kind of files her initial complaint against the guy. There's another scene where there's this hidden bar in the underground kind of apartment. You go in there, and there's this weird curtain going to the club, and you're like, oh my God, it's like a little bit old-fashioned nudie bar where it's girls naked behind a glass, and her friend works there, so that was kind of interesting. And she finds out this really creepy neighbor works there, so she's like, oh my God, he's working here. This is horrible. He's probably finding girls left and right in this place, right? There's also the side plot of Julia runs into the fact that in the neighborhood, it's not just that this creepy guy exists, but that there's actually a serial killer on the loose, and she's kind of pulling bits and fragments in English. Most of the stories are in Romanian, so she doesn't have much to go on. And also there's kind of a side plot whether the serial killer they're naming him Spider, and they think it's actually tied to a janitor, possibly. So a little bit of a side plot there, which is really good. I love the fact that in the movie they use a lot of Romanian. So when the girl's speaking, they'll translate some of it. Sometimes they won't translate. So the girl's frustrated. She's barely picking up anything. And I speak a little bit of I speak very good Spanish, a tiny bit of French, a tiny bit of Polish. And so I can kind of piece together a word or two out of Romanian. I'm like, I'm just struggling just like her, but picking up a couple words like kurva, which is bitch mother in Polish, so it's probably the same word in Romanian, right? So it's very interesting, the Slavic roots in Romanian, but also there's a lot of Romanian influence into Spanish because the gypsies traveled from Romania all the way to Spanish, and they're well known there, so there's a lot of gypsy words inside of Spanish and back. They probably went back and forth, so they've pulled up a lot of different words from all over Europe and then combined it into Romanian, right? But Romanian is obviously its own language as well. The weird thing I think in the story, which was strange for me, is why didn't Julie just join a Romanian class in person? Like, she's just studying by tape, which you can do nowadays. You can just study all alone and on your own, and kind of you can learn a little bit faster, but in person always is a great way to learn the language. You meet people, and that would seem like the natural thing to do if you're all alone by yourself, is kind of go to different clubs and meet people in person. So that seemed a little bit strange, but I mean, obviously it plays really well into the movie because she's not forming friendships. She doesn't have anyone to fall back on. She's just him and her boyfriend, and he's working late at night at work, and so it's a really creepy stage because she's all isolated. There's a fun interplay too, kind of midway through the story. Julie starts stalking the neighbor that has been stalking her, so it's kind of like, who's the stalker, who's the watcher, her, him, whatever. It's kind of like really interesting. And she starts kind of trying to intimidate him, facing off in person with another friend of hers. So she thinks that's going to threaten the guy and make him back down. But then he goes to the police, and then she's in trouble with the police a little bit. So it's kind of interesting how that backfires on her. And then he finds out where she lives, obviously, which is even worse. Another scene where, you know, the police kind of enter the neighbor's apartment because she's been missing a few days, and they find a cat. But the cat doesn't meow, and supposedly the killer's right in the apartment. So it's like, why isn't the cat meowing? Like, the cat would feel totally, like, skittish and get the hell out of there or something. Animals don't really, especially small animals, don't stick around when there's danger involved. When it's maybe a dog, they might kind of tolerate it, but even a dog would be kind of growling or something, right? So a cat would probably just get out of the whole apartment maybe. So that was a little bit unrealistic, I think. But it's great because it kind of throws the plot. You don't see that. So then you don't think that there's any danger there. It's another thing is they have these really great sets of the isolated subway scenes inside of Romania. If you go to Eastern Europe, you know, with these subways, they're going to be really creepy, dimly lit. Some of them are cool, like in Prague, it's a really cool underground, but in Romania, it looks kind of very Soviet style, you know, dimly lit, the lighting's bad. And so that really played a lot into the creepiness of the film. So I thought that was a really strong part in the film that made it really cool. And overall, I think it's a fun film. See it once. I don't think you collect it, but it's, you know, you could probably watch this at home, but horror films are always kind of fun in the movie theater, so kind of on the fence whether you go to the movies or see it at home because it's going to be creepier, obviously, in the cinema. If you'd like to see more reviews, you can subscribe below, and I'll see you in the next movie review. Thanks for watching, guys.